Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bet99's The Parleh Show. It is Wednesday. We got a big show for you today. I'm Rob Conway, and my co-host, as always, Albert Vartanian, in studio here in Toronto. And, lots going on right now in the world of sports as we're heading into, the Open Championship, which we're going to get into a little bit, as that will tee off very early tomorrow morning. So if you're thinking about getting some bets in, you got to get those in tonight, unless you plan on waking up probably about 2 a.m. Local, Eastern. We also were going to talk with Sean McCormick, of course, about the Toronto Blue Jays and what we saw last night from Alek Manoah and what is to come for the rest of this Padres series. And Justin Pooney making his debut on the show.
He's back from vacation.
He's back from vacation, and we're going to talk a little NFL, a little top 10 quarterback. Maybe we'll get into some other things with Justin as well. And then Sarah Parleh joins us, as always, at the end of the show to find out what's going on at the book. But did you, I don't even know why I'm asking. You watched Alek Manoah last night?
I did.
And?
I mean, it's kind of what I expected. We talked about it yesterday on the show, right? I'm like, I'm not going to be surprised if he goes out there, gets shelled, and doesn't last, 4 or 5 innings. He didn't. He got pulled in the third. He was getting some questionable calling. I mean, you can tell he's still having trouble finding the strike zone. The umpire was not giving him any help to the point where Pete Walker had to come out, and then he got tossed. Did you see that whole situation?
Yeah.
I mean, I assumed Pete Walker was going out there really just to have a conversation. The color guy, I think it was Joe Siddle, was the color guy for Sportsnet last night, said, I don't know if Pete Walker is going to be coming back into the ballgame after this one. And he was absolutely right.
Yeah, you got to stand up for your guy, and his confidence is shaky and all that stuff. And you're right, the Soto at bat in the first inning was tough. He had him
10-pitch at bat.
He had him struck out too, and then gave up the bomb a little bit later on. The thing that I noticed the most, look, you get a bad bounce off third base for Chapman. He doesn't make that play, can't. And then the Springer loses the ball in the lights. Instead of being, a 2-1 game, it's a 4-1 game. Right. So forget about that part. The 5 walks were tough. The no strikeouts, I think, was the worst part. Because that first inning when he had 30 pitches, he couldn't get anybody out. No. He just couldn't. Those guys were so patient, and they sat on everything. He didn't have a whiff pitch. And that's going to be a big issue for Manoah. And, I was listening to Ryan Dempster earlier today, and he was talking about how some of those pitches that they were fouling off against Detroit, they weren't swinging, so they were like getting called strikes,
right?
And so he wasn't getting, like, they were on him and they were fouling stuff off, and it was not disappointing because of what that lineup is. It's disappointing because I didn't see anything that leads me to believe he can get an elite lineup out.
No, I don't think so either. You're right. And we mentioned it. That's not the Detroit Tigers.
No.
And next up for him, looks like he's got Seattle and then the Angels before the deadline. I mean, projected starts. Yeah. Will he start in those games? I'm not entirely sure. But I think you need to look at him at least 2 more times probably, and you get 2 more shots before the deadline. But with that said, you can tell, I mean, just from like his demeanor last night, if you watched his demeanor against the Tigers in that first outing back from, being sent down, a bit more swagger about him, right? He was bouncing around a lot more confident. Against the Padres from the first pitch, he didn't have that.
No.
So, but, I mean, it's expected, I believe. I think there's probably some serious nerves going through Manoah there as well. Considering the lineup that he's facing, he knows what's on the line. He doesn't want to go back down.
No, and that's the thing. He wants to be part of this team, and he knows this team has an opportunity to do something special, and they're giving him an opportunity to get it straightened out. And they need him right now. They need him. I mean, look, Kevin Gausman doesn't look like he's going to be missing too much time, but they don't have any depth at pitching whatsoever. And so he knows that over the next couple starts, if he doesn't prove what's going on, then it becomes an issue for the Blue Jays. They have to address at the deadline, and then maybe they don't get a bat that they need. Maybe they don't do this or that. And so I think there is absolutely pressure.
I think they need to pull the trigger and go get a legitimate starter. Because, okay, let's say he has the next 2 outings against Seattle and the Angels, and he looks pretty good. Looks decent. Say he goes 5 innings, couple walks, gets hit for like 2 or 3, which is completely fine. But come playoff time, if you get into the ALDS, like even the ALCS, if you somehow manage to get there, do you trust Manoah to start any of those games? No way.
No way.
Under that type of pressure? So that's what – I don't care what happens in these next 2 starts. You have to go out and get a guy. And then Hyun-Jin Ryu, you're going to bank on him to come back and be dominant?
No. Your 3 starters
that's what I'm saying. You're hoping for a lot of good to happen
Bassett
with 2 guys.
And Ohtani.
Barrios. Maybe Ohtani.
Which I wanted to get into because there's an article. We'll talk about more with Sean McCormick. There is an article on ESPN. It's a good article. They got some writers to propose a trade, and they had one guy who was the make-believe GM. Did you see the article?
Yeah,
you
I
did.
did.
Did you see the names on there? You're not seeing what I've been saying, which is no one off of rosters are getting moved.
Right.
I never heard of any of those guys.
Those are hypotheticals, right?
Of course.
Right. So who knows what the move is?
But there's just I know I understand what the idea is, which is that you're getting Shohei Ohtani, but you can't trade names off your roster. It's not going to happen.
I mean,
it's getting more and more likely too with them winning games. He's not going anywhere.
Well, what the hell are the Yankees doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? This is your opportunity. Most important series for the Yankees is this series. Not only because they're last in the AL East and not only because they're chasing a wild card. Sweep the Angels, give them no shot of even sniffing the wild card, which means they got to trade Ohtani, which they still might anyway. But let's say the Angels sweep. What are they, 4.5, 3.5 back now?
4.5, I think now.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Maybe they get some momentum, and you never know. So the Yankees are truly blowing this right now for themselves.
For themselves and for shows like ours who want to talk about it in Ohtani
Also,
trade.
no one has asked this question. What does Shohei Ohtani want? Because just because he gets traded doesn't mean he needs to sign with that team. I would love to know where he wants to play.
Yeah.
If he were to give a list of 3 teams, who would those 3 teams be? I would love to know.
Yeah, I think he wants to stay on the West Coast. It's probably the Dodgers, Giants,
But
and
why?
Mariners.
Why does he want to stay on the West Coast?
I don't know. That's what people say.
No.
I don't have his number. I haven't texted him personally.
They say, you know him, you bring him on the show?
Yeah.
But it's true. Everyone's just like, he's going to do this. This is what's going to happen. Nobody knows anything, which is so fascinating.
No, for sure. Well, we'll talk more about Ohtani and some hypothetical trades, but we'll get back into the Jays. Manoah with Sean McCormick. He's going to join us for the next couple of segments. And then Justin Pooney for some quarterback talk in the NFL. But for now, we're going to take a break here on Bet99's The Parleh Show. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Bet99's The Parleh Show. Rob Conway here, Albert Vartanian joining us now, Sean McCormick, and we are having an absolute time in the break finding out about Shohei Ohtani's goals between the ages of 19 and 42.
No, from 18 to 42.
18 to 42.
Yeah.
All right, Albert, let's hear a few of those.
Okay, so 18, he's 29 years old right now, I should say. At 18, he said he wanted to join an MLB team, so that's one of the goals. I'm not going to go through all these, but by 22, he wanted to win a Cy Young. Obviously, that didn't happen. He wants to throw a no-hitter and 25 wins. That was at 24 years old. His first son was supposed to be born at age 28. I don't know if he has any kids. Anyone know that?
I don't believe so, and also that is not really a controllable thing.
Again, calling his shots, like I said in the middle of the break. By 26, he wanted to win a World Series and get married. 25, he wanted to throw the fastest pitch in the world at 108 miles an hour. So let's start at 29. So 29, second no-hitter. By 30, most wins by a Japanese pitcher. 31, first daughter born. 32, second World Series. 33, second son born. And it just goes on. He wants to break the strikeout record, and in his very last game in the majors at age 40, throw a no-hitter.
Well, apparently he didn't take into consideration at whatever age he was when he wrote this that he was going to play.
I think it was in high school.
Yeah, he was going to play in Japan for a bunch of years and not be able to come over right away, that's part of why he's, quite frankly, a disappointment in his own eyes.
But he wants 3 rings. He wants 3 rings.
Well, if he wants 3 rings, he probably needs to find another place to play baseball. Yeah. And we were talking about, Sean, before the break, some of the, trades that, it was ESPN staff, but possible trades. And they're all for prospects. As I said, we're not getting anyone. You're not getting Bo Bichette over there. You're not getting Tatis Jr. over there. It's not happening. So especially if he's not signing where he's going. But what are your thoughts? They're now 4.5 games back. They're heating up a bit. As Albert said, the Yankees are not doing their part when it comes to trying to get this guy out of L.A.
The Yankees lost again.
I'm fine with that. I mean, it's good.
No, you're fine with that.
It's good for the Jays if the
clearly a Toronto Blue Jays fan wearing your Super Barrio Bros.
Yeah.
Bichette and
little
Vladimir.
Take on Mario
Guerrero
Brothers,
Jr.
you know.
Yeah.
Are you all right?
Yeah.
So I think the Angels are pretenders. They're definitely not contenders for the World Series, especially with Mike Trout being out, especially with that pitching staff minus Ohtani. I've come on here, and this has been the Ohtani Network the last week or so, and why not? Why not? The guy is phenomenal, and it's he's been doing some incredible things over the last couple weeks. But I don't really see him going anywhere. I do think he should be traded. I'm not expecting it to happen. I think he should leave LA, maybe maybe not leave LA totally, maybe go to play for the Dodgers, maybe play for the Yankees. Again, I do think he's a big market player. I don't think he'll stay in Baltimore. I don't think he'll stay in Cincinnati. Texas, I guess, but like some of these teams like Texas, the Dodgers, the Yankees, they have huge payrolls that can afford to keep him there if he wants to play there. Again, what we talked about off air, it depends, what does Ohtani want? We don't know that. And if you asked him that on the record, I'm sure he'd say, I would love to play for the Los Angeles Angels. You know what I mean? Like, or he'd give you some non-answer like, we'll figure that out after the trade.
No one knows exactly what he wants. The problem here that's holding up this trade is this Yankee series. They're giving the Angels hope. They win tonight. They're going to be 3.5 games back, a game back of the Yankees. So they have to leapfrog the Yankees, Boston, and maybe Houston or Toronto. It's still a lot to do, but you're giving the team hope, which is going to maybe
How far are they back in the division?
No, that's a good question. I'll look
A
that up
lot,
for you.
probably.
But a lot. But
Yeah.
anyway, we know that the Angels are going to have no shot, even if they make the wild card.
No, none.
I mean, even that's a stretch thing. Who knows? I mean, in a 3-game wild card series, maybe the Angels can pull out 2 wins. But regardless, it's just the fact that they keep winning games right now is going to hold up any trade talks.
Yeah.
Because the Angels are going to believe, well, listen, we might lose him for free, but what if we, have a bit of a run?
Yeah. One thing I think is an interesting question, too. You talk about teams that have the payroll for it. Yeah, we know the Tampa Bay Rays aren't going to put up the money. But I would like to know, and I'm sure Shohei Ohtani's agent is doing this, but how much do you think of the $60 million he's going to cost you a year, does he return to you in extra ticket sales, extra jersey sales? I'm sure the rights to the games in Japan, I'm sure every game that would be broadcast there, they're going to have those rights. There are other ways that the money-making machine of Shohei Ohtani can profit that team. So, I mean, you're also cutting into that 60 probably by half, I would say, a year.
Yeah, I would think so. Global appeal, I think, is massive with Ohtani.
It just depends on what they're willing to shell out. We all know like Oakland is in huge trouble, and like you said, the Rays and the Pirates and like teams like that at the lower end of the spending in MLB. Just his contract is going to be more than some teams' payrolls. So like he's not gonna. It's just impossible for him to go to these teams. It's impossible for them to sign him, and that's why I think he's going to end up on a big market team, and it just depends on where he goes and how long you can stay, because I completely agree. The revenues will definitely help you make your money back, but
you're Oakland.
What are you?
You're Oakland, and you're
Oakland
going to Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Going to Vegas.
Splash in Vegas, It's too far down the road.
Yeah, but like, does their like $40 million payroll and suddenly increase to $300 million? No, right?
Just for Ohtani.
Like,
it's going to be $100
I was doing a bit of research.
Doing
a bit of the research on the trade stuff, and a picture that's coming up for me is Paul Blackburn. He makes $1.9 million, and he's makes more than 20 other people on the team or something like that.
Yeah, well, that team's
that's ridiculous.
Trash bin, but
but that's what I mean. It's ridiculous. It's the state of some teams and what they're willing to do. And then for years, I mean, the Rays were sort of similar, but always competitive. Their scouting and their pitching that they came up with. Oh my God!
When's the last big splash the Rays made? Like, have they
in free agents? They spent a bit this year, but they spent a bit on a couple relievers.
Like really big splash, I'm talking about. Like a notable name.
No.
I can't even think of one, right?
No. The most notable names have left as opposed to
Price,
come there.
Longoria.
Yeah.
The two guys that pop up in my head.
Yeah.
Randy Johnson.
Randy Johnson played for the Rays?
Canseco played for them too.
Is this baseball?
Immaculate Grid, man. Yeah, that's how I know these things. Completely addicted to Immaculate Grid, by the way.
Yeah, so we'll talk about Ohtani. As you said, with the Ohtani Network.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Everyone's putting together the same articles.
What they always say is anyone can be traded because Wayne Gretzky was traded. But this is even past that. Wayne Gretzky's the greatest hockey player of all time. I think Ohtani does even more special things in baseball than Gretzky did on the ice.
And the money's completely different. We're talking $500 million contract.
No, I know. I just mean like it's such a hard. There's no comps at all. Like there's never a comp for trading a guy like Wayne Gretzky, obviously, but to trade a guy like Ohtani is not even close.
No,
there's just nothing. There's nothing.
Yeah, if you look at the NBA, LeBron's never been traded. Jordan wasn't traded. Kobe wasn't traded. Well, he was traded at the draft.
Yes.
My face will be so red if this trade happens. I don't think it's going to happen. It'll be as red as it is to just admit that also Randy Johnson did not play for the Rays. So that's my bad. But, I don't it's too big of a deal. It will not happen. It will not happen, and I will eat a lot of cake and be wrong if it doesn't.
It might
happen.
not.
The Angels are 9 games back of the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
they're
toast.
toast.
They're toast, and like even like what like the Twins lead the Central or something, and like there's certain teams that get in, but they don't really have a shot, you know. And you just said that about the Angels. I don't see it. I don't see it with the team. They should sell him again. You probably have to you're probably not getting back what he's worth.
I don't see.
But I mean, like you said, like a Westberg, like a package that the Orioles could make as the richest prospect team in baseball. I mean, shipping away 2 of those guys for 40 games, does he really put you over the top and make you like a World Series favorite?
Well, that's what I was going to say. A team that's win now, like bring in an Ohtani, how many more wins do you get?
Why don't you
in your lineup?
go up to Shohei Ohtani right now and say, here's the deal. If you want to sign here again, we could really jumpstart this franchise by trading you, and we'll bring you right back. That would be the perfect situation for the Angels, right?
It could happen. Like I said in the first block, what does he want? If he does want to stay in LA, he goes,
Right?
plays
We can
as
go
a
get
rental,
4 or 5 really good prospects,
and signs off.
and signs right back on.
Ooh, I like that one actually.
No one ever does that, which I think elite players that are free agents
Get
should
him in the
consider
AL.
that.
Get him in the AL.
Yeah.
I want to see more of him, not less.
Yeah, for sure. Put him
That's
on the
it.
East Coast.
As a fan, I want to see more of him.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, we spent the entire time talking about Shohei Ohtani, but that
we
means
usually
we have
do.
lots of Jays talk still to come on the other side of this break. But for now, this is the Bet 99's Parleh Show. I'll keep working on those. All right, welcome back to Bet 99's The Parleh Show. Sean McCormick still joining myself and Albert Vartanian in studio. And we went long there on Ohtani, but we're going to talk a little bit about the Blue Jays, and maybe we'll quickly get into some Open Championship, either the end of this block or the next one. But, hey, first thoughts. Alek Manoah, we talked about it off the top. Wasn't great. He literally could not get a batter out, at least strikeout for sure, in that first inning. 31 pitches or 30 pitches, whatever it was. They fouled off everything, ended up having 5 walks, no Ks. That slider, that tight slider that he could swings and miss on, were not there. Granted, that first inning he faced 4 of the best, batters in baseball. But that's what's going to happen down the stretch and certainly into the playoffs. So what were your thoughts?
It didn't help that the umpire squeezed him there on the
Soto one. Yeah, that was bad.
At bat,
but he doesn't. But look, it was a strike. But he hasn't earned those close calls because literally Nate Pearson threw the same pitch like 3 innings later and it was a strike.
Yeah,
actually, it was lower and it was a strike. So it is what it is. But he's not getting that call right now.
And the umpire scorecard, it was a good scorecard too, by the way. I know you
scorecard.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to say this on the show. I'm like,
You score the
there's
game.
There's an umpire scorecard like on Twitter. It shows how accurate the umpire is throughout the game.
I thought you were scoring the game
No,
E6.
No. But it went pretty much exactly as I expected. I mean, again, I talked about it yesterday on the show. Padres are the best walking team in the league. Manoah has been bottom of the league, at least bottom 2%, probably the worst pitcher of qualified pitchers in walks in the season. So I went pretty much exactly as I thought. I was hoping to get a little more innings out of him just to see how he could bounce back from some of that adversity, how he could push through. But I mean, these games are hugely important. You can't just leave a guy out there that's struggling and
short leash.
Yeah, it has to be. And Schneider's been doing that with a lot of his starters, I feel, giving them the short leash. And Manoah should have the shortest leash of them all right now. And rightfully so, got pulled. And I wonder what you do next with him.
Schneider came out and said, and I found it interesting, he goes, I think the line is worse than his performance and what we actually saw. I don't know. I know he's protecting his guy. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he needs to go out and say that. He wants to give him confidence. I totally get it.
That's what they said after the Florida Complex League started, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. It's true. I mean, look, you don't know what we saw. I wish people had the tape. Well, show us the tape so we know. Anyway, listen, they need Manoah to be better. But, Sean, I mentioned this in the first block. I think they're at the point. I know he's got Seattle and the Angels next as the next 2 projected starts. Yeah. I don't even need to see any more. If I'm the GM of the Jays, I don't need to see any more. We get into the ALDS or the ALCS somehow. I don't want to put Manoah in there. I don't trust him. I'm going to ride the bullpen in one of those major games. Am I going to use a second arm in that game for my rotation? No. I think you got to go out and get somebody. I know Stroman's name is being thrown out there. I don't know if it's going to be Stroman, but they need another starter. They absolutely do, and I think they need to pull the trigger now instead of waiting until, couple days before the deadline after Manoah's last start.
Yeah, again, I still prioritize a bat. It's so close. I mean, again, especially after you see that performance from him yesterday.
3 innings.
Gosman appears to be okay, so that's a plus. I don't think he's going to go to the IL.
No.
Ryu's going to come back, and again, similar to what I said about Manoah, when Manoah came back to the majors, I mean, it's great that Ryu's doing this in the minors, but your 88-mile-an-hour fastball, let's see how it does against Major League batters, right?
Yeah.
Especially a lineup similar to the Padres, or, you're up against the Dodgers next week. You know what I mean? Ryu's scheduled to pitch Friday, I think, for AAA as his last tune-up start to get him up to 85 pitches or somewhere around that mark. So we'll see how he does on Friday, and then I assume he's back up with the club next week.
Let me pose a question. This might be crazy. This is completely hypothetical, but if you're the Jays and you're looking for a pitcher and you're in this all-in win-now mode, would you include Manoah in a package for an elite starting pitcher?
Yes, but only under the circumstance that team is accepting of the fact that you're getting the guy from last year and not this guy. Like, you're not selling.
Well, you would
low.
have to assume that team is like, well, we'll deal with that. We know Manoah's good
I
enough.
just think you're not going to get the value for him, but if you can, absolutely.
He's not the main piece. Well, he kind of would
He
be
should
the main
be.
piece.
He's
but
1 year away from
it wouldn't be
Cy
like
Young
Manoah straight up
nomination.
for Stroman. It'd be Manoah plus a sweetener for a Stroman.
Well, the thing about that,
I don't think that gets it done, but I would do that 100%.
Wow, I know. That's a tough one because he can turn it around, right? Give him an off season and maybe he's
he could
back
have
to
10
the
great
old
seasons
Manoah.
after this. Absolutely.
It's not even that. Again, I think trading Manoah is probably off the table unless you're getting something that's going to be long term, because Manoah's under arbitration control, meaning
and that's how Atkins and Shapiro operate too. They're not rental guys, really.
No, not really. Especially, like, again, you don't have a ton of prospects to get rentals, and your team is built enough to win. Again, I think you do need a couple players to put you over that hump, or at least put you in a position to get over the hump and you get a little further into the playoffs. But yeah, Manoah's under cost control for until 2028. So, like, meaning he can go to arbitration and get a bigger deal. And, you know what I mean? His salary's only going to go up a little bit as years go on. But I mean, you probably don't have to pay him. You know what I mean? His salary's probably going to be around the same next year because he didn't live up to, expectations.
I'm just thinking about some of the pitchers who could be available. You look at the Padres, who probably not going to make the playoffs. Does that mean Musgrove or Snell or Darvish might be available? Scherzer, Verlander. I know these are big names.
I think they're.
But if you're going to acquire a big name, giving out Manoah as part of a deal, I know it's crazy, but I mean, I think maybe the Jays need to start thinking that way.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think, again, the money's too big for some of those players. I think for the Jays to acquire, Scherzer, Verlander. I think the Padres probably believe they're still in it. As much as they're looking on the outside looking in right now.
They're a team you think at any moment could rattle off 10 wins. They're not probably going to do it. There's no reason to assume they're going to do it.
10.5 back NL West, 7.5 back of the wild card.
Yeah, it's just the amount of teams, too, that you have to jump. All right, let's get into the game tonight, though. Yeah. The Padres are plus 100, and the Blue Jays minus 120. Over-under is 9. You have a note in here that says Brandon Belt and George Springer hit well off you, Darvish.
They do.
Look, the San Diego Padres, if you were been betting against them all year, you would be doing very, very well. Because of a line like this. Now, granted, Darvish is a good pitcher, but this is a team below 500. They lose more than they win, and they are always seemingly at least a pick-em in every game, if not a big favorite. I know I sewered the Parleh last night.
So did
you.
Yeah.
And Albert's just picking the easiest pick in the history of baseball right now, which is just the Ohtani.
Are we cashing?
Yeah, you are hitting. So I did sewer that. But again, I like the Jays at that line. How do you give the Padres plus 100 against a team that's 11 games over 500? I just don't get it.
Darvish is a fantastic pitcher.
Sure.
That lineup is fantastic.
No, they're not.
Sorry.
Sean,
the top of the order is...
Listen, the Padres on paper are very, very good. They are not a good team. They're hitting it with runners in scoring positions bad. Their pitching's been fantastic over the last month and a half, but they don't win ball games. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you had Tatis injured for most of the year, serving suspension / injured for the beginning of the year. Soto came out and said that the pitch clock was affecting him, whatever that means. So he was off to a slow start to start the year. So that was an adjustment for him. Yeah, I think it's a good.
He has a Padres t-shirt on underneath that blue.
It'll be a good second half team, I think, the Padres. And yeah, Darvish hasn't lived up to his expectations this year, but again, the underlying numbers, boys. I
don't care about the underlying numbers.
He's got like a 4 ERA, but he's got like a 3.7 xFIP. Again, he's got 6 pitches. He throws a lot of different things at you. He keeps the hitters off balance. If I don't really have a pick to the side in this game, but I like the under a bit. I think Berrios can do enough to stifle.
Who's a better pitcher, Yu Darvish or Jose Berrios?
This season.
This season, it's been Jose Berrios.
I think it's Jose Berrios completely. I think he's a better pitcher than Yu Darvish, except for maybe a year or two in Texas. That's it. Like, over the last 5 years, I think Jose Berrios is a better pitcher. He had a terrible last season, and I think he's better this year. So,
Jays
minus 120 is Hammer City.
I like the Jays. And the Jays are 8-2 in the last 10 when Berrios starts. And if you look at Yu Darvish...
last year he was awful, and they were still like 15 and 1
I know.
in his games.
And I know
something crazy like that.
I don't look at the underlying numbers the way that you do. But
the overlying numbers.
Underlying, last 7 games, 3-3, over 6 ERA. He pitches worse on the road. The Jays' bats they're not great, but I think they can hit off this guy, and I think Berrios keeps him in the game long enough where they win it. I do like the under, though, as you mentioned.
Yeah, under's not a bad play.
Yeah.
So
that's a tough question to answer, though. Berrios or Darvish. That's a difficult. That conversation could go on and on and on and on. And
we do very well at that.
That's true. Yeah.
His name's not Ohtani.
Yeah,
so let's just end the conversation.
Yesterday, who threw out the Jays? Was that your pick? I was like,
and you know what's funny? We forgot to ask Barney, and so I texted him after the game. I was like, "What was your pick going to be?" It was the Jays.
Of course, it doesn't matter. Of course,
yeah, because he's been crushing the Jays though, and they've been red hot. So he's been doing.
He's
very,
been
very
doing
well.
it like before Manoah got set down.
He was at the game on Sunday. Was it Sunday? Yeah, game on Sunday, and he had the over and the Jays, and it was 7-2 in the ninth, and Mitch White comes in and gives up
three runs.
3 runs, and he's loving every minute of it.
Which he did again last night.
Mitch White,
fire that guy into the sun.
What? Like, I don't understand.
No, I mean, those are the kinds of games you give a Mitch White. You just put him out there and be like, just finish the game.
Yeah,
we don't care
a
if you give up
booster.
We don't care if you give up runs. Just go out there.
Like
basically, would you rather have Mitch White on the mound or a position player?
I was just about to say. So what? Like.
I mean, Ernie Clement didn't do too bad.
He wasn't too bad.
Little.
Speaking of which, the AAA team did very well the other day, and Martinez had a home run. 5 hits for Clement, 5 hits for Horwitz. It was the reason why I'm bringing this up. We talked about the trade deadline, and Martinez, for example, he can play 3B.
Yeah.
Maybe you move Chapman. Or maybe you have Martinez, because Martinez was a top prospect. He had a really bad start to the season, but he starts playing well. Maybe you trade him. Maybe he's in a package for Stroman.
Yeah, it's too early to tell. I mean, obviously the Jays have a strategy, or at least they're showcasing him enough so that other people can look at him and maybe they get some trade calls. It's too early to tell for sure, but this is obviously a strategic movement. 2 weeks before the deadline, showing this guy off. He's got pure power. Had a few more strikeouts last season. He's got that number down a bit, I think, to about 20%. And I think he's got a bright future, and he can play short. He can play third. I mean, again, Chapman's a rental that would be highly sought after by most teams. So that's definitely something that could be looked at.
I think you can definitely see them moving around Martinez. They moved Gabe Moreno. I know that Varsho has time, so maybe not for a rental, but everything's on the table, and it should be everything on the table. This team is trying to win now. It has a pretty solid lineup, and we've talked about the pitching, but if you're throwing out Bassett, Gausman, and Berrios in the most series, that's going to be pretty good. So, Sean, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be talking with Justin Pooney on the other side of the break. Top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, and we'll get into the Open Championship after this. All right, welcome back to Bet99's The Parleh Show. Still to come, we're going to have Sarah Perard to talk about what's going on at the book, The Parleh. We did not forget about that. We will have that for you at the end of the show. But before that, making his live debut on the show. I said earlier debut, but it's not. You've been on the show before.
So I can't drop like F-bombs.
No.
We prefer if you didn't.
Yeah.
But,
okay, I won't.
Yeah.
It's PG.
It's
man.
Justin
PG.
Pooney.
It's a family
Justin,
show.
You're back from vacation. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Yeah?
I got in late last night, kind of half awake, but I'm good. I'm excited to talk some football with you guys.
I've never seen a guy so excited to see Seattle Seahawks jerseys drop today.
Yeah, I just bought it.
I know.
Like,
I saw that.
They are. The uniforms are
Actually,
nice.
Rob, you passed my wallet.
You know what?
Yeah,
you know what?
that's
I'll
right.
say like maybe
Team play.
top 5 uniform next season. I haven't seen them all, but they're nice.
You know what? The
They're
Minnesota
nice.
Viking ones they dropped yesterday were really nice.
Yeah.
I like the Detroit Lion ones. There's a lot of good NFL.
Are the Bengals doing the all white again?
They should.
Those are nice.
Right? I like
Those
the.
are sexy.
Speaking of all white, the Browns dropped the all white
Oh, that's
helmet.
right,
that
yeah.
looked really nice as well. Look, it's exciting time, guys. The Chiefs started training camp today. Football is right around the corner, which means a lot more betting as well.
It's a perfect Sunday. is the NFL. Like the way for betting, it's so. I know they have Monday and Thursday and it's Saturday sometimes.
Let me ask you guys this though.
Yeah.
So I grew up, of course, on the West Coast. So we would start our Sundays would be basically from 10 a.m. football starts, then it would be at 1:30, and then Sunday night would start at what, like 5:30, and then it'd be done around 9 o'clock.
Nice.
Right, but if you drink too much on the Saturday night and you get kind of hungover, then you forget to, set your fantasy lineups on Sunday morning. Forget to get those last bets. And I do prefer watching it on the East Coast because, you get the 1 p.m. buffer zone. You can wake up in the morning.
That's not bad, yeah.
I'm not a morning person.
I'm a big Sunday night and Monday night football guy. Even Thursday night. I love it. I don't know why. End the night off with some good football.
It's amazing.
I love it a lot.
It's amazing that literally any two teams could be playing and you watch it.
Well, unless it's the Broncos on Thursday nights.
Hey, we all watched. We all watched that game. The Broncos.
It made me think maybe I'm never gonna watch a Thursday night game ever again. Those games were like what, 13-7, like.
Well, this year they can flex the Thursday games too now, right? So I mean that does benefit the end of the season where they can have more of like those playoff-like atmospheres. But look, it's gonna be epic. Can't wait for it. The Detroit Lions and Kansas City Chiefs opening night will be here. September something.
September 7th.
September 7th. There we go. Right around the corner.
And the Monday nighter is the Jets Bills.
Jets Bills. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers debut.
Bills laying -2.
You were saying that Robert Saleh was called inhumane to show on Hard Knocks.
Yeah. So basically, he told HBO, maybe the NFL, listen, you can't film me cutting players. It's inhumane. I wonder if HBO and the NFL would be like, whatever, dude, we're going to film it.
I mean,
like one of the reasons why you watch Hard Knocks is to hear that guy's backstory, that player.
Yeah.
And they tee it up by him getting cut, which is unfortunate, but dude, it's a job. It's part of the business.
That's why after every Hard Knocks, like the season finale, it's always the cuts are the last part because that's what everybody's building
They build
towards.
a story, yeah.
Exactly. To call it inhumane, though, I mean,
but
it's part of
I can understand the other side, right? Let's say, would you want a camera crew in the office when you're getting fired from your job?
Absolutely not.
Well, so I understand that side as well.
I get what he's saying, but it is part of the deal. It's part of being, I guess, a professional athlete. I'm not saying being filmed getting fired is part of being a professional athlete, but it is part of the whole. People know how much money you make. People know when you're doing well, when you're not, when you're fired, when you're all that stuff. It's just you're in the spotlight a little bit more than a regular job, and it comes with that, and it comes with, for the most part, a decent amount of return and money. So
absolutely,
it is what it is. Speaking of the Broncos and terrible quarterbacking, we were going to talk about the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL according to ESPN. One, Russell Wilson, not on the list, and
big shocker there.
Didn't even get a vote. There's like a vote at the bottom. Geno Smith got a vote.
My guy, he should have. He broke every franchise record last season.
I'm just saying that one of them makes a lot of money and one of them makes, well, now he makes pretty good money, but not as much. Patrick Mahomes, number one. That's easy. There's no doubt about that. He's on a tier of his own at the moment. It's like Connor McDavid in hockey or, LeBron James in his prime in basketball. It's not close. But after that, it gets interesting. So we got Joe Burrow, number 2, number 3, Josh Allen, number 4, Aaron Rodgers. Rounding out the top 5 is Justin Herbert. So let's start there, 2 through 5. Justin, I'll start with you. I was surprised. I would have had Josh Allen ahead of Joe Burrow. That's my personal thing. Rodgers, coming off of an MVP season a couple seasons ago, where I think he was number 1 on this poll. Now at 4, is that too high though? After having kind of an okay season in Green Bay, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think obviously we all know Mahomes is number 1. Like I think the NFL, it's like you've mentioned, it's like McDavid. There's Mahomes, a big gap, and then there's kind of a jam of people you could have interchangeable from I'd say 2 to 7. I'd say.
I almost think, other than Lamar Jackson, I think he can be up there in the top 5. I don't think anyone else on that list gets anywhere near the top 5, in my opinion.
Like, what do you mean? So like
Hurts, Lawrence, Prescott, and Stafford there's no chance that they're moving up past where they are.
Oh yeah, I think having Dak on Matt Stafford on that list, especially after last season, is ludicrous.
Yeah,
Dak threw 10 Daks at a.
I'd probably have Kirk Cousins ahead of Dak.
Yeah,
I would.
I think
he's not playing in an evening game.
What did Dak just say about interceptions?
He said he's not going to throw 10 interceptions this season. Everybody bet the over on Dak Prescott interceptions.
I hope Tony Pollard plays then, because he have to hand the ball off.
Yeah, maybe he won't be throwing the ball as well. I would probably. That's the only gripe I probably have with that list. These lists, who cares?
Yeah, they are what they are.
But I think Kirk deserves to be in the top 10. I know he's not a primetime guy, but 1 p.m. on a Sunday, he's a solid quarterback.
You have. I'm looking at your list. You have Hurts still moving up there.
Yeah, no, I did my own list. So again, I had Mahomes, Burrow, I had Jalen Hurts number 3. People forget this guy would finish second in MVP voting, led the Philadelphia Eagles to the Super Bowl, had a great. People forget he had an amazing game at the Super Bowl. What was it? 3 rushing touchdowns? Was it 4 rushing? Yeah, some absurd amount of rushing touchdowns. Threw for a couple. He had them right there at the end of the game. And if it wasn't for the turf, Turfgate's a big thing in the NFL right now. Maybe the Philadelphia Eagles would be Super Bowl champions right now. We don't know. Then it's Josh Allen. Look, Josh Allen, supreme talent, super athletic, but he turns the ball over. He's had trouble in the red zone. Maybe that's because they don't have a running back. Talk about the running back phasing out of football.
Big
Maybe
issue.
they don't have a big running. They don't have a big running game there. Justin Herbert, there's just too much talent not to have him up there. Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence this season could be he had a kind of a breakout year last year, but this could be the next step because it's another year in Doug Peterson's system. He's got Calvin Ridley now, who's a game breaker.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence could be a guy who could take, be right behind Mahomes and Burrow as, a top 3 quarterback.
You know what, dude? If I'm a Jaguars fan, I'm worried.
Why?
Because everyone is bigging up the Jags. They're going to coast. They're going to win that division.
Yeah.
T-Law is going to be a top 3 quarterback in the league. Not many people have talked about the Jaguars.
T-Law. That's the
Not
first
many
time I've heard
people.
that.
Yeah, T-Law, my boy. Not many people have talked about the Jaguars like this and their quarterback heading into a season since when?
Never.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'm a fan, I'm a superstitious fan.
Blake
Obviously,
Bortles?
I'd be like, oh my god.
But that was more
Blake
the
Bortles.
defense when Blake Bortles was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like T-Law. I think he's going to be legit.
I want to
but
see
to be top 3, he's got to do a lot.
I want to see a healthy Lamar Jackson this season. He finally got paid. Let's see if he can put 17 games together and put. He's still a top 10 quarterback. I didn't understand the Aaron Rodgers being a number 4. That was my biggest thing. He didn't have a very good year last year. Now he's going to New York. He's got new weapons, a new system. I mean, I guess Nathaniel Hackett is there, so he does have familiarity with him.
No respect for Hurts on there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. There's no Jalen Hurts on there, which is crazy, right? Oh, sorry, number 6. Excuse me. I did have Tua in my top 10.
Dude.
If you look at it, if you
yeah.
look at the numbers last year, right?
I'm with
Tua,
you.
13 games started. He had 3,500 passing yards, 25 touchdowns. What was the interceptions at? He had only, I think, had eight interceptions.
Well, he didn't play the whole season.
Yeah,
either.
he only played 13 games. He had 105 pass rating. When Tua's healthy with those weapons, he can distribute the ball.
But that's the thing, right? And that's what I keep going back to. If he stays healthy, Miami's a legit threat, especially with Tyreek Hill saying he wants to break 2,000. But I think it only takes one hit.
It does.
And he's done, unfortunately.
It does, and that's unfortunate. So that's why, has been learning practicing with a jiu-jitsu coach on how to fall and stuff.
I'm hearing
like
about jiu-jitsu, and he's building up his traps, and I'm like, what are we talking about? Dude?
I mean,
do whatever you can to try and protect yourself. But when you've suffered concussion, we all saw him in the middle of the field, and what happened?
I know, it was terrifying, honestly.
And then it happened again.
Yeah.
So he's going to get hit again. It's not like this O-line is the best O-line ever.
No.
We're not talking about the old school Bears here. So I think Tua's in a lot of trouble.
I think with Jalen Hurts, with you having him, moving up,
number 3,
we're gonna find out how good he is not this year, next year, and the years after that, because I believe his cap hit is still pretty low. And the joke's always like, oh, if Patrick Mahomes was on the Eagles last year, they wouldn't have lost a game. But it is true. We'll see how good he is when the weapons aren't there, because Mahomes is doing it with nobody too, because they pay him $50 million a year. And once they start paying,
I
his cap
wouldn't
hit
say
is
he's doing it with
6 and
nobody.
13,
He's
but
got the best tight end of all time on his team.
Yeah, no, and
Tony Gonzalez plays for.
Travis Kelce, come on, Travis Kelce's better than Tony.
And he has to get 3 touchdowns a game, because that's the only guy he can. throw
Also,
the
I
ball
wish
to.
they did the worst quarterback rankings. I was looking at this.
Russell Wilson, number 1.
No, Colt McCoy.
It's Colt McCoy.
I'm looking at
I guess
PFF.
Colt McCoy is starting because Kyler Murray's out.
Sam Howell.
I trust Sam Howell.
What do you think of Baker this year? Baker's
like,
dividing opinion.
This is Baker's last chance, I think. We saw him go to LA last year.
That's like a good documentary. Baker's
last chance. Netflix, let me know.
What next year's quarterback? The 3 picks. Baker would be the Marcus Mariota guy.
Let's see some struggling quarterbacks and see what they do. I haven't watched this new quarterback series.
I watched the
but I'm assuming they're highlighting the top tier guys.
Yeah, I mean, no. You see, so they take you basically in depth in the life of Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota. I watched the first 2 episodes. It's interesting to see just how much of a competitor Mahomes is. Like, you always think of him, he's always smiling, he's always having a good time, but man, that guy's a fierce competitor. Even Kirk Cousins, just to understand just what he goes through on a week-to-week. Everybody bashed him, but this guy, he's in my top 10.
I want them to get into the brain of Kirk Cousins and be like, why do you have issues on Monday night in primetime games? What is the deal?
I would love
to know.
Not to spoil, but there's a scene in that documentary where he's talking to the team, the team psychologist after their Monday night loss to the Eagles, where they got blown out in week 2. So you get a little interesting snippet of just how Kirk Cousins' mind with a really good documentary, and it will provide pressure, I think, to Hard Knocks to maybe make Hard Knocks a little bit better.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
All right, MVP early predictions.
Oof.
What, Mahomes?
The guy at the top of the list, isn't
It's got to
it?
be Mahomes, right? Mahomes is what right now?
Is there going to be any Mahomes
favored.
fatigue though? Right.
It's plus 6.
That 620 is actually great value. For
Yeah,
most.
it is.
He plays 17 games. You got to think he wins.
This just
I don't
QBs?
I don't mind Rodgers at plus 1600. Just because if this team is actually really good at like 12-5 or whatever, then he'll get a lot of.
What if the Eagles go undefeated? Is it Jalen Hurts?
I just don't. No team
I don't
is
think he's gonna get the
I think no
respect that he
team is gonna go
deserves, probably.
17-0. It's the team. The league's got too much parity. I know we're saying the NFC is not that good this year. It's kind of the Eagles and the 49ers and everybody else. But come on,
Prescott,
man.
plus
Every
2,000
week you're gonna
Prescott?
get.
I like Lamar Jackson actually.
That's not bad.
15-1.
That's
I
not
like
bad.
that.
That's not
With
bad at
something
all.
to prove.
Yeah. All right, real quick, before we get to Sarah Parleh and what's going on at the book in our final segment to wrap the show, Albert, we want to talk a little bit about the Open Championship. You guys are doing a draft in your show coming
Yes.
up.
We are.
So Justin's ready to go as well. But what are some of your picks here in the Open?
I got a big list.
Okay,
I was
go ahead.
mentioning to you off the air, like this major is where I bet the most. I don't know why. I just enjoy it a lot. But top of the board, I'm looking at Rory and Scotty. I'm going to go Scotty.
Wow.
I know plus 740 is not great. It's short, but he has a legit shot to win. And I'll just run through some. Brooks Koepka, 20-1. Hovland, 21
I will
to
say
1.
Brooks Koepka hates links golf, but keep going.
Yes. Tommy Fleetwood, Fairway Jesus, 23-1.
Yeah.
I have Rose, 49-1.
That's pretty good.
Bryson's been playing really well, 59-1. Minwoo Lee, if he can figure out his irons, 59-1 and putting. Denny McCarthy, 100-1. And Sepp Straka, 179-1.
If he can figure out his irons and putting, he'll win the Open Championship.
But if you go back and look at some of his numbers, he's losing strokes on putting and irons and still finishing T10.
I know, but I know. Those are two very large parts
I
of
know.
your games that
But
you have to figure out.
But if you watch him play and look at those numbers, even when he isn't playing well, he can still finish the top 10.
Quickly, do you like anybody in particular?
Rory's gonna break the drought.
It's going towards that.
He's
I would
gonna
love to see
break
it.
the drought. He's gonna break it this week.
I would love to see it. You asked me, forget about odds. Who do you think's going to win? I think it's setting up for Rory to get the victory. He's won on this course before. He's coming in hot. It'll be fun to see him down the stretch. Anyway, he'll be there for sure. It's a fantastic time for golf right now. There's so many great players playing at such a high level, and it's great to see guys like Fowler and everybody back. We just need Tiger.
Yeah.
We just need Tiger. That's it. All right, Justin. Thanks very much for joining us. Good
boys.
chat there about the NFL. 50 days away until the NFL returns September 7th. Okay, after this, we'll find out what's going on at the book with Sarah Parleh. All right, time to wrap the show as we always do with what's going on at the book with Sarah Parleh. And Sarah, you said we got a lot of action in the break, and it starts with the Women's World Cup.
Oh, I was going to start it with the Jays so we can just get that out of the way.
Okay, sure,
and
go
just
ahead.
Focus on the Women's World Cup.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Jays in action against the Padres tonight. Jose Vidillos on the mound for the Jays, and they are the favorites, minus 120. Padres plus 100. Yu Darvish pitching for the Pods. You guys like anything here?
I love the Jays.
We're on the Jays.
We're on the Jays. And the under.
Jays
We're on
and the under.
Jays and the under.
Jays
yeah.
in the under. Okay, perfect. Now that's out of the way. Let's talk about the Women's World
Women's World
Cup.
Cup.
So this evening, for us, tonight, finally in Canada, the Women's World Cup starts with both the hosts in action. First up, New Zealand taking on Denmark, 3 a.m. Eastern Time. I know you'll be up for it, guys. No surprise here that Denmark are the heavy favorites, minus 350 against New Zealand, who are plus 900. Denmark, overall, a way better nation at football. It's going to be tough for New Zealand, but first match always could be crazy. You never know. They have the host advantage, so I don't know, maybe a little sprinkle on New Zealand. It could be
Okay.
interesting,
Okay.
right?
The
You
home
know?
side, it'd be like South
It is
Africa
the-
way back when.
Shabalala with the flip and the goal.
Yeah.
Love that.
Plus 900, I'm all in.
Yeah, but the big game will be at 6 a.m. our time tomorrow morning because Australia's taking on Ireland, and this is huge for Team Canada because this is our group. The Aussies are the favorites, minus 350 against Ireland, plus 900. Again, that's at 6 a.m. our time, but guys, this is so important for Canada because we want to see an upset or a draw here. We want to see Ireland maybe get those 3 points or a draw, even better for Canada because Aussies are the favorite to top this group. So
All right.
it's gonna be tricky.
I it's going to be a heck of a World Cup for sure. And we also have the Open Championship coming up. The Parleh I wanted to get to really quickly. I have the Phillies tonight, -165. You are on the Ohtani basis, of course.
2+.
2+.
Plus 128.
That's value.
Giddy
That's
up.
not bad at all. And then Sean McCormick has the under with the Jays and the Padres game.
Plus,
There you go. Plus 605 now because the odds just changed to -110 for the under. Sarah, thank you very much.
Love it.
My pleasure.
All right. And we're going to be talking with you tomorrow about F1. We got lots going on as well, and a lot more with the Canada's Women's World Cup as they'll be getting their tournament underway as well tomorrow. All right. That's it for us here. Rob Conway, Alek Vartanian, Sarah Parleh. Thanks to Sean McCormick and Justin Pooney. And we'll be back tomorrow with the Parleh Show brought to you by Bet99.